Mockingbird and Liarbird by Rhea Wakayami on AO3. Chapter 16. Hitoshi comes into the tent to find only Izuku inside. Bruises and scrapes littered his body that wasn't protected by his clothes, and he looks exhausted. "Hey, Toshi," Izuku says, quietly. "How was Yami-san?" "Loud," Hitoshi says, rubbing at his ears. They're still slightly ringing, but Recovery Girl has said that it should fade by morning. "We won, though. I heard you actually won against All Might," he adds, snagging a chair to sit next to his bed. Izuku nods with a grin. "I dropped a building on him," he admits proudly. "What?" Hitoshi whispers in shock. "Are you crazy?" Maybe a little bit. But, in a good way. May," Izuku says, cheekily, before he sobers. "You don't understand, Toshi. All Might is terrifying to go up against. How do people decide to fight him and not wet themselves once they see for themselves?" Izuku whispers. "That bad, huh?" Hitoshi asks. "His speed and strength are off the charts, Toshi. I knocked a building on him, and it barely slowed him down. We only won because I managed to distract him long enough for Kacchan to escape." Izuku waves his hands around in emphasis. "So you actually worked with the bag of dicks?" Hitoshi murmurs. "I might have yelled at him first," Izuku admits with a grin. "You didn't," Hitoshi whispers in amazement. "Come on, play it back for me. I know you can," Hitoshi says with a grin. "No," Izuku shakes his head, but still grins as Hitoshi fakes pouts. "I do need to find May and give her the biggest hug I can. Her stuff is the only reason I was able to do any of this. And I need to commission some more stealth drones. Both of mine are probably kaput." "That should make her happy," Hitoshi says with a nod. The tent flap opens and Shota walks in. "You two ready to go home?" he asked. "Yes," Hitoshi nods. "Recovery Girl says I'm good to go," Izuku says, wearily pushing himself up and swinging his legs over the side of the bed. "I'm tired," he adds. "Let's get you home then," Shota says, and Hitoshi helps Izuku stand before they follow the man out of the tent to where Hisashi is waiting. He's holding the bent remains of Izuku's staff. "Sorry, kiddo, not much we can do to fix it," Hisashi apologizes, holding it out to Izuku, who takes it with a sad smile. "We did find this, though." He holds out Izuku's first drone he used to shock All Might. "The other one was a casualty of your protechnice," Hisashi adds, and Izuku grins sheepishly at the raised brow Hisashi sends him. "Thank you," Izuku says, tucking it into his pouch. "All right, let's get you changed and then we'll head out," Shota orders, and they nod, warily following the two adults back to the main building. "Izuku!" Inko cries out worriedly as he comes into the apartment slowly, looking dead on his feet. "I'm okay, Mom, just tired," he reassures her with a smile. He holds up the staff. Sorry, it was ruined in the exam," he adds sadly. "Oh, sweetheart, that was bound to happen eventually," Inko says fondly, leading him into the living area and making him sit. "We can always order another one," she adds. May's already taken up the project, though I'm worried about what she might add to it," Izuku says with a laugh, and Inko smiles. "But, I think I'm going to mount this, my first staff, you know?" he adds, and she smiles in understanding. "Plus, All Might signed it as an apology, so I definitely need to keep it," Izuku adds, giddily, and Inko outright laughs. "Then we'll definitely keep it," she says. "Now, you go take a shower and change into something comfortable, and I'll get started on dinner. I think it's gonna be an early night for both of us." Inko orders, and Izuku nods, standing up to tread towards his room to put the things away and grab some clothes to change into. We failed! I know, we failed! Kaminari wails from his place, draped over Ashiro's desk. Mina, what do we do? They're all gonna be having fun without us. He asked the pink-skinned girl. I really wanted to go too. Ashiro whined, sniffing softly. You won't be alone, at least, Kirishima murmurs with a sigh, sending Seto a compassionate look as the larger boy slumps at the reminder. Maybe it won't be that bad. Izuku tries to console them. You don't have to worry. You passed your practical. Kaminari shoots back and Izuku sends a glance towards Katsuki, but the blonde is ignoring them, shoulders stiff with tension. Take your seats. Aizawa snaps as he opens the door and they all stumble to take their seats, as he stands at his podium in front of the class. I'm sure you're all wondering about your exam results, he states bluntly, and many, across the room, nod eagerly or groan pitifully. Everyone passed the written exam, though a few only by the skin of your teeth. Aizawa informs them, and sighs ripple across the room. You can find your result on the board outside the room. As for the practical, he trails off and tension mounts. Some of you failed the practical. Kirishima, Sato, Kaminari, Ashiro, and Sero. You all failed your practical. Groans and sighs ripple out. Don't get compliant. A few of you barely passed the practical. Aizawa reminds them, and a few look guilty. As you know, the summer training camp was conditioned to pass both exams. He paused and looks around the room. That was a lie, he says with a sharp grin, and shouts of shock spring out. Sensei, you lied to us? Again? Ashiro whines out. A logical ruse to ensure you did the best on the exam. You're all going to the summer camp regardless of your exam results, unless you failed the written exam as well. The practical exam pointed out obvious weakness each of you have as a means of overcoming your shortcomings. The summer camp is to make you stronger, and those who failed the practical need it the most. It would be illogical to keep you from the camp, he explains. Sensei, Ida says, raising his hand sharply while standing quickly. I hope you won't be doing this in the future. Some of us might become distrustful of you in the future. Noted, Aizawa says evenly, and starts handing out a stack of brochures. In regards of your practical exam, he pauses, eyes scanning around the room, with a look of seriousness that had the class sitting up and paying attention. Instead of fundamental heroics class this afternoon, I will instead be speaking with each of you separately to go over the exam points where you were lacking, where you did well, and how you can improve. I will also be giving out any material I feel will help in this regards. I expect you to take what I say seriously. You won't like me very much if you keep making the same mistake over and over. I don't like repeating myself. The class is silent at his tone. These brochures list what you need for the camp and what you should be expecting in regards of physical training. Pack appropriately because we won't be leaving the camp to get something you forgot. The date we are leaving is on there. You will need to be here on campus by 4 a.m. We leave at 5 a.m. If you need help getting to campus that early, speak with me. He adds before turning to his sleeping bag to settle in it and sleeps the rest of homeroom's time. We're all going! Kaminari yells excitedly. People shush him and he cringes. Izuku stands to go to Hitoshi's desk, where the teen is looking through the brochure. Are we really going to need all this? Izuku asks as they look down at the list of recommended items. Hitoshi shrugs. Probably, he murmurs. We've got most of this, but I might need to make a trip to the store. Same, Izuku agrees. Hey, why don't we do a class shopping trip? Hagakure calls out excitedly, and the class gets excited. Many of them already agreeing to go. Midoriya-kun, do you and Shinsu-kun want to come? Uraraka asks. Izuku trades a glance with Hitoshi, who shrugs. Sure, Izuku says with a grin. I've never been on a class shopping trip before. Izuku is following Hitoshi to lunch when they're stopped. Ah, young Midoriya, All Might says brightly. Could I possibly have a word with you? He asked. Izuku shares a glance with Hitoshi before nodding. I'll meet you guys at our spot, Izuku says. Hitoshi shrugs. I can wait. Mei's not going to be there either. Hitoshi reminds him, the girl helping Powerloader with the end of the semester support cleaning day. All Might coughs into his fist a little. Of course. We'll just be in here, he says, and Hitoshi nods as Izuku follows Iporo towards a nearby conference room. Inside, All Might motions for Izuku to sit, and he does, fidgeting with his fingers. He can guess what this might be about. Ah, no need to be so nervous, my boy. You're not in trouble, All Might starts off with. Izuku nods. I have a question to ask you. About something you said during your practical exam, All Might says. Oh, Izuku says while glancing at his hands. About, about saying I know your secret, right? Izuku asks. Yes, All Might says seriously. You must understand that I have secrets that must remain secret. And if you know about one, I must know, he explains. I know, Izuku whispers. I know about, well, your smaller form, Izuku informs him. I didn't mean to find out, but that day we ran into each other in the hall when you were in your small form, you spoke to me and I recognized your voice. I always remember a voice and, well, I added it up. I haven't told anyone, well, except Toshi, but he was with me that day when I figured it out and I was confused and talking out loud, but we haven't told anyone. He quickly reassures him. Ah, All Might murmurs with a heavy frown. Perhaps we should include your friend then, after all. Izuku nods and goes to the door to wave Hitoshi in as well. What's up? Hitoshi asks quietly. He knows we know about the whole secret thing, Izuku explains quickly. You mean the secret thing we were keeping secret? Hitoshi asks with a frown. I didn't tell anyone else, but I sort of used it in the exam and, well, Izuku puffs out his cheeks and Hitoshi nods, following Izuku into the room fully before shutting the door behind him. They both sit on the couch opposite him. I'm sure you have questions, and I'll answer that when I can, but this must remain between us. The teachers and staff that need to know at UA are aware, but the rest of the student body is not in the know. You must swear to keep this secret, boys. Yes, All Might, they both say, and the man eyes them for a long drawn-out moment of silence before he explains about his injury, how it was limited, his hero work, and how he kept it from the public to keep people from panicking. Hitoshi and Izuku leave for their lunch 10 minutes later, quiet as they absorb what they had just learned and subdued by the implications of what it means. Hey, we're heading out, Hitoshi calls out softly to Hisashi, who's in the kitchen in the middle of making some tea. The blonde pokes his head out with a smile. Got everything you need? He asks quietly, stepping further out. Shota is cloaked on one of the couches, sleeping before his patrol that night. Yep. Hitoshi nods, wiggling his wallet for the man to see. Izuku snorts at the cat-themed wallet on display, and Hitoshi just arches a brow, well aware of Izuku's All Might limited edition wallet that he'd waited in line for an hour to get. All right, have fun, behave, and try to stay out of trouble, you two, Hisashi ordered with a stern finger wag before a grin breaks out on his face. Call us if you need anything. I'll have my phone on me just in case. Okay, Izuku says with a nod. Don't kill anyone, Shota calls out, voice muffled by how he is pressed against the back of the couch. He must have woken up when Izuku knocked. No promises, Hitoshi says with a grin. Bye. Hitoshi calls out, dragging Izuku out of the apartment and towards the elevator down. They chat as they walk towards the train station and wait for the train. Once boarded for the Kiria Ward shopping mall, Hitoshi pulls out his phone, and they spent the ride watching compilation videos of cats. Once the train reaches their stop, They push through the press of bodies trying to get on and soon find themselves outside the station where they can see quite a few of their classmates mingling around, waiting for the others to get there. Midoriya-kun! Shinzo-kun, over here! Kaminari shouts loudly, waving his arms, and the others shush him as a few strangers gave him annoyed looks. Are we the last ones? Izuku asks, worriedly, thinking they made everyone wait. Nah, we're still waiting on Sero, Uraraka, and Ayomama. They texted to say they were on their way. Kirishima assures him. Bakubro and Todoroki declined, but everyone else is coming, by the way. Kachan doesn't really like crowded places, Izuku says with a shrug. He remembered the blonde having to fight through crowds for new All Might releases and getting snappy as people crowded around him. I've been meaning to ask about that, Ojiro speaks up from where he's leaned against a nearby wall. You two seem to know each other. You too, Shinzo-kun. Oh, yeah, Izuku murmurs, rubbing the back of his neck, something he picked up from Hitoshi. We went to middle school together, and I've known Kachan since we were little. Oh, so you're friends? Hagakure asks brightly. Sort of, Izuku says with a grimace, at the same time Hitoshi snorts decisively. Friends with the bag of dicks? I'd rather eat glass. Hitoshi murmurs. Toshi, Izuku admonishes him. I was friends with him when we were little, but we grew apart as we got older. You mean he became a bully and tormented you? Hitoshi speaks up. It's not like that, Izuku insists. You mean he didn't push you around and hurt you with his quirk or call you that horrible name all of middle school? Hitoshi asks sharply, and Izuku flushes, looking away as the rest of the class watch silently. Wait, really? Kaminari asks in shock. Aldera is a horrible school, Izuku explains softly. It encouraged a lot of bad behavior in people, especially if they had really good quirks. People don't change if everyone says they're perfect and never calls them out on bad things. He's getting better and becoming a better person at UA. Everyone deserves a chance to show how they've changed, Toshi, Izuku says softly, but firmly, looking him in the eyes. Ugh, fine. Why are you so nice? Hitoshi complains. It's my charm, Izuku says with a small smile. I'm sorry that happened to you, Midoriya-kun, Kirishima says softly, expression troubled. I'll try to call him out when he does things that aren't manly, okay? You're right. Everyone deserves a chance to prove they can change. Oh, thank you, Izuku says, with a surprised smile before the group drifts a bit, and he and Hitoshi end up near Tokoyami. Hi, Tokoyami-kun, Izuku says with a wave and a smile. Hi, Dark Shadow. Greetings, Mad One, Tokoyami says back, with a nod, Dark Shower coming out to wave at Izuku. I thought that was Mei-chan's nickname, Izuku says with a frown. It was, but after your exam against All Might it seems fitting, Tokoyami explains, as Dark Shadow giggles, pressing their hands against their beak. What? Izuku yelps. How? Ashi-san and I finished our exams fairly quickly and returned to the observation room in time to see the rather explosive end of your struggles, Tokoyami explains. I tried asking Aizawa-sensei if I could get a copy of the video footage, but he said no. Hitoshi says with a sigh. One day, I'll see it. Toshi, Izuku winces, flushing. He looks down at his fidgeting hands and thinks back on his decision with Aizawa-san about his exam and the rather pointed look as he replayed the building exploding on All Might. We're here, Uraraka calls out as the last three stumble out of the train towards the group. Cheers go out and chatter breaks out as the group starts to mingle towards the entrance to the mall. Inside, they stop to assess what everyone needs. I just need some sturdier shoes for hiking through the woods, Izuku informs the group. Same, and a hunting knife? Hitoshi adds with a shrug. Plus, my parents asked me to pick a few things up while I'm here, he adds. Why don't we just split up into groups and meet back in a few hours to grab late lunch? Uraraka says when they all realized they needed a wide range of things. When Nova verses the idea, groups break off from the main group until it's just Izuku and Hitoshi left, standing there staring in shock at how quickly everyone just left. Well, come on, Hitoshi. Might as well get our shoes first. Izuku says with a grin, and Hitoshi nods. They stop by the mall map and find where to go, heading to the second floor where the outdoor goods are sold. It doesn't take long to find a good set of hiking boots, but then they run into a snag. Namely, Izuku's size is nearly the top of the shelf, out of reach of the shorter teens. Izuku hops a bit, hoping to reach it, but it's just too high. Hitoshi would help, but he's too busy laughing to do so. Toshi! Izuku huffs, arms crossing. Do you need help? Hitoshi asks, gloating at his greater height. I'm about to climb this thing, Izuku murmurs, looking around for a step stool, but finds none in sight. I will film you doing so, Hitoshi says seriously, holding up his phone. Then I'll send it to Dad and Pops, who will give you the patented parent disappointment look. I'll just claim I'm suffering from a height deficiency, Izuku says with a shrug, grinning. You'll have to face that disappointed look because you were filming instead of helping, Izuku adds. Oh look, a convenient arm rest, Hitoshi says, resting his elbow on Izuku's head. You're so mean, Izuku whines before elbowing Hitoshi in the side and making him grunt in pain. Someone snorts in laughter behind them, and they turn to see a store acquaintance giggling behind them. Excuse me, she chuckles, waving her hands. You two just make a really cute couple, she explains with a grin. What? Izuku yelps, face going red at her words, and Hitoshi starts to cough as he breathes wrong, face palming as well. We're not. Toshi's my best friend, Izuku explains, waving his hands practically. Oh, no, I'm so sorry, she says quickly. I just assumed. Forget I said anything. How can I help you? She asks, blushing a bit as well. I I just needed those shoes up there in size 6, Izuku says, still flushing, heart beating heavily in his chest as Hitoshi finally catches his breath and straightens from his half-clutched position. She nods and reaches up on tippy toes to pull the box down. Once Izuku confirms it's the right size, he takes it, Hitoshi grabbing his own shoe box, and they aim for the front of the store. The taller teen, silent the whole way there. They pay for the shoes and Hitoshi's knife, and quickly leave. Oh, that was. Izuku trails off with cheeks finally cooling off as they aim back towards the center of the mall. Are you okay, Toshi? That was so weird. No one's said that before to us. He jokes, half-heartedly, grinning shakily. Yeah, Hitoshi says with a nod, still looking a little flushed. I need to go grab something, he says softly. I'll come with you, Izuku offers. No, you can't, Hitoshi says quickly. What? Why? Izuku asks, hurt a little at the sudden change. Hitoshi sighs. Because I'm getting your birthday present, you doofus, Hitoshi explains with a look. Oh, yeah, I guess that would ruin the surprise, Izuku says with a laugh, glad there's a reasonable clause for this sudden change. Okay, I'll wait over there by those benches, and when you get back, we'll finish getting that stuff for Aizawa-san and Yamana-san, Izuku says, and Hitoshi nods. 10-minute tops, hopefully, if there's not a line, Hitoshi says, and Izuku grins and waves at the taller teen, walks off. Izuku finds a seat and fidgets with his fingers. That was such a shock. Him and Hitoshi? Yeah, no, that's not happening. For one thing, he doesn't even know if Hitoshi likes, well, boys. Of course, Izuku has never really thought about that, having a boyfriend, or a girlfriend either. He's been so focused on training, then getting into UA, then getting into the heroics program to just try to finish the semester, he hasn't had time to think about anything else. But now that the thought is there, Izuku feels his face go red again at the idea of him and Hitoshi. pressing his hand to his warm cheeks. He lets out a soft whine. He shouldn't be having these kind of thoughts. Hitoshi is his best friend. He'd hate himself if he said anything and Hitoshi didn't like him, and that ruined their friendship forever. It's just a thought, a crush. It'll go away, right? Huffing, Izuku rubs angrily at his cheeks in frustration and stands with the bag clutched in his hands as he starts to pace a bit. No, he'll just ignore this. It'll go away and then things will go back to normal. It's just the idea of a boyfriend. He's never really thought about having one, and now suddenly it's all he can think about. Focus on school and hero stuff. Nodding to himself, Izuku starts to walk back to the benches when someone bumps into his back, arm draping over his shoulders. Hey, are you that kid from the sports festival? That Gen Ed who took second? They ask, into his ear, and Izuku freezes. He'd had a few people stop him in the streets to ask something similar, but none had ever done this before. He jerks his head up to look at the taller person hanging off him, and meeting burning red eyes, a large, almost manic grin spitting their face, which looks severely chapped, like they had some sort of skin condition. Blue sting hair framed their face from under a black hood. Too bad you missed all the fun at the USJ, he murmurs, and Izuku's heart stops a beat as long bony fingers wrap around his throat and squeeze ever so tightly. Make a scene, and you won't be able to let another sound come from that throat of yours, he warns. Who are you? Izuku asks, stuttering as fear swamps his mind. He remembers Aizawa explaining to him and Hitoshi what one of the villains that got away from USJ attack looked like, and that if he ever saw him, to call the police immediately. Just someone looking for answers, he murmurs, eyes narrow, and Izuku stiffens as he feels fingers tapping at his throat. He also remembers Aizawa telling him about the man's quirk, a 5-point touch disintegration quirk. I just wanted to chat. You seem like a smart person. Maybe you could help me figure out something. He muses, and Izuku nods slightly as he leans them towards the benches he just left. Izuku looks around frantically for someone, anyone who can help them, but all he sees is civilians walking about their day, completely unaware of whom is in their midst. Don't do it, he murmurs. You might warn them, but that could take out at least 30 before help arrives. Shivering, Izuku allows himself to be guided to sit on the bench. Hitoshi lets out a long, drawled out sigh as he walks away from Izuku. Never had he been gladder for a legitimate excuse to have a moment away from his friend. He can still feel the resolute heat of his flush as he climbs the stairs for the second floor of the mall. That was not what he expected today. Hitoshi rubs at his face with his free hand. He'd only realized recently that he might have a small, tiny, itsy bitsy crush on his friend, and have it suddenly brought up by a stranger? Gods, he nearly swallowed his tongue in surprise. And Izuku, best friend. He said best friend. Hitoshi honestly doesn't know Izuku's preference, or if he even likes anybody like that, or if he wants a relationship like that. Of all the things they've talked about in the 3 years they've known each other, relationships have not come up, which is funny because they've literally had an in-depth conversation about what they would do if they just decided to turn villains one day. Needless to say, Izuku is scary when evil, and Hitoshi will never betray him. We're talking fully fleshed out plans for world domination sort of evil. Hitoshi honestly isn't even sure if it's actually a crush or if he's just confusing things. He's never had a crush before as far as he knows. Of course, Izuku is the closest friend he's ever had before. They share everything. No secrets between each other. Well, no major secrets that won't eventually be told in the future. Hitoshi has concern about asking Hisashi, but he's a little afraid that he'd be so mortified to ask him, let alone Shota. Gods. That kind of conversation would come up from the question, would make him want to shrivel up and die right on the spot. Shota would get so much fun out of making him squirm in embarrassment. He looks up to see the store he's looking for, comes into view, and quickly enters. He's called ahead and they confirmed when the class would meet up, and the store confirmed that they had the item he wanted, so he put it on hold. Izuku had been eyeing a new All Might figurine for a while now, but has been hesitant to buy it, mainly because he's already asked for so much lately from his mom, money-wise, with the expenses at UA. So Hitoshi's getting it for him. Of course, there's already someone in line, being held up by an associate behind the counter. It's an older gentleman by the sounds of their conversation. It's going to be a bit before he finishes. The woman helping him figures out what to get his grandchild or something. Hitoshi sighs softly. Figures he's going to have to stand in line for a bit. He rubs at his eyes. He really just needs to put this crush thing behind him before he gets out of control. Izuku is his best friend, and he'd rather remain friends than screw up what they had over a small crush. Besides, they're so busy with school and training, when would they even have time to do anything else? Better to just focus on what he has now and not ask for more. A second associate comes out of the back and waves to him to the next register, and he sighs in relief before explaining what he's there for. 3 minutes later, with a new figurine tucked into his bag, proven by the store, Hitoshi heads back. Glancing at his watch, he sees it's been less than 10 minutes. Grinning, he heads down the stairs and starts looking around where Izuku said he would wait. He spies him sitting on the bench, a taller person half draped over him, and Hitoshi frowns. He can't see their face from here, their hood covering them. He walks closer. He calls out, "Izuku?" Izuku jumps, eyes wide and frantic. Hitoshi can see how badly his hands are shaking, and finally notice the hands wrapped around his friend's neck. Hitoshi's heart lurches at the sight. What do you want to talk about? Izuku asked shakily, as they sit in silence for a few seconds, watching people pass in front of them. You seem smart, and I saw the video posted. You were there the night Stain was taken, he says, with an annoyed frown. He's all everyone wants to talk about. They've barely even talked about my Nomu attacking, like an afterthought. What does he have that I don't? He destroys things he doesn't like I do, and yet everyone praises him. You attacked Hosu? Izuku asked. So you weren't working with Stain? Izuku had wondered, when Aizawa had mentioned that it might have been the same people who attacked the USJ, if the two were related or if it was merely a coincidence. He turned me down, he says with a hiss, hands tightening around Izuku's neck slightly, and Izuku coughs a bit before he relaxes his hands. Not that I wanted someone like that in my group. You didn't answer my question, he adds angrily, and tightens hands purposely before releasing again. Izuku swallows, nervously, glancing around before thinking on his question. The difference, I guess it would be your goals, Izuku says quietly, thinking rapidly to come up with something. I don't agree with what he does. Killing won't solve anything, but he's at least trying to change the world for the better in his own twisted way. So far, all of you've done is attack no apparent reason other than just because you didn't like something. A goal, he murmurs. My goal is to kill All Might, he murmurs angrily. And then what? Izuku asks, and red eyes glance at him. You kill All Might, and then what? Killing All Might isn't a goal. It's just you wanting to destroy something you don't like. The goal is meant to do something. Change something for better or worse. Killing All Might is only the first step, Izuku says, heart frantically beating. Yes, that's it. he says with a chuckle, eyes wide with excitement, and Izuku feels his hand clench again, and not let up. I've been so focused on killing All Might, I never realized there's more to do, more to destroy, more to my goal, he says breathlessly. Izuku reaches up a hand to grab at his wrist, and he finally lets go as Izuku draws in a shuddering breath. That, I feel so much better. It's like everything makes sense now. You're really smart, you know, he says. Izuku? Hitoshi calls out, and Izuku's head jerks up to stare fearfully at Hitoshi. No, he can't be here. If he attacks Hitoshi and kills him... Hitoshi frowns, purple eyes darting between Izuku and the villain draped over him. Well, this has been nice, but I think I need to go. Thanks for your talk. It really helped me clear my head, he says with a grin, and he lets Izuku's throat go before standing. See you around, he calls and starts walking away. Hitoshi starts to turn to follow and Izuku panics. Toshi, no! Izuku calls out, breathing rapidly as the fear starts to hit him. Hitoshi turns back to him and rushes forward, dropping his shopping bags to drag Izuku into a hug. Are you okay? He demands quickly, pulling back to glance over him, but he can't see any injuries. I... Izuku can't make words come out, shaking so badly. I'm calling the police, Hitoshi says, and Izuku just nods, wrapping his arms around Hitoshi as the teen pulls out his phone. I'm crying. I'm tearing up. Oh my god. Ureo Wakayami, I will say, you have... There's been multiple times when I've, teared up as I'm, recording or finished recording, because, the way you expressed how Izuku is, how they're all kids and are actually gonna be scared after a traumatic event, it hits harder, right? That's something that the My Hero Academia, the anime doesn't do well. If we had this, right, obviously, the whole mall event happened, and then we see how Izuku is genuinely fucking scared, and either can't talk, or is shaking, or we see genuine terror, and maybe even later down the road, he continues to have, nightmares about it, or stuff like that. It hits harder. It's not just a moment you forget. It's a hard-hitting moment. Before starting to read fanfiction, this moment was always super forgettable for me. I always forgot about it, right? It was always a moment that I forgot about, and it wasn't until I started reading fanfiction and reading the way people rewrit it, and it finally started to click in, because it's this is a well-written one. I really like this one, It's the way it's developed, it's nice. You can feel the reality, because Izuku is having a realistic response to a traumatic event, and stuff like this in the My Hero Academia anime doesn't happen as much. The most I could think of is, again, oh my god, shocker, season 6. I don't know, season 6 for some reason went, turn it up a notch, pull all the strings, and snap, we got perfection. I don't know what was happening in season 6, but all the notches were brought up, to the point where at the end of season 6, we get to see Izuku having a literal nightmare, and then a literal physical reaction to the nightmare, which, again, adds to the whole, this is a traumatized kid, right? So I love how we added that moment where he literally can't talk. I was having fun stuttering. Some of those stutters were real. I will say that. I will say that. One of those stutters were real, okay? Some of them. On to what I really wanted to talk about before that happened, because what I was originally going to talk about this whole time was just about, the whole, oh my god, you guys look like a cute couple, and then the reactions. But then that happened. Then trauma happened. Trauma interrupted my romance. Why does it always happen? I get a nice, sweet... I should have known. That was nice, sweet, kind of floofy, because it's oh, look at them, they're crushing on each other and they don't know, #idiots to lovers kind of thing, right? No, we just get trauma. Oh, look at this cute little bunny. Trauma. Look at them, they're adorable, they're couple, and look, they have crushes on each other. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that cute? Here's some trauma. But what I was gonna say is they're definitely doing that whole mutual pining idiots to lovers. Well, actually, it hasn't entered the idiots to lovers territory yet. It's just mutual pining friends to lovers. I wonder if they will enter idiots to lover territory. Idiots to lover is one of my favorite tropes. For those who don't know what idiots to lover is, it's basically oblivious ex-oblivious, right? Like, these two are oblivious. It's fucking clear to it's super clear that they like each other. But they're just like, nah, I'm just reading the signs wrong. Like, you idiot. And then they finally become, they finally get together. So, idiots to lovers. And idiots to lovers almost always has mutual pining. And it's almost always a slow burn, right? So, it has my two favorite tags, slow burn and mutual pining. Because I just love that. And if I'm feeling extra sassy, I like to put pining, not mutual, if I really want to cry myself to sleep. But yeah, I see what I told you guys. The ball was gonna start rolling. Unfortunately, in my comment section, someone informed me that they will not get together at 18. Unfortunately. Oh my god, wait, context. Chapter 18. Chapter 18. Oh my god, that sounded so bad. Oh my god. Okay. Alright. Chapter 18. But they will not be getting together at chapter 18 like I predicted. There you go. That is better. But I do see that the ball is starting to roll, so we like that. We like that. And I can't wait for the next episodes to come, chapters. Why do I always want to say episodes? For the next chapters to come. I know somebody in my comments, you know who you are, is really excited for the upcoming events that are going to come. They've been reading the author's notes on the top of every chapter, and they have a little bit of spoilers. And they said that they're really excited for upcoming events. I'm really excited now because they got me excited, getting prepared. And, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night, join our community Discord server, link is in the description, subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.